Okay, everybody, my name is Chris. Welcome to the online course CAEL CE Lesson 2. So hopefully you can hear my voice now. And just if you can't hear my voice, or if any time in this lesson you can't hear anything, try exiting your browser and then coming back into the webinar. You could also use a different browser. So if you ever can't hear something, just leave and come back. And I'm just typing that into the message box as well. Okay, so hopefully that will solve your problem. So Ahmed, welcome. Thank you for sending me your message. I guess you were the same Ahmed who came last time and then you had to leave early, is that right? Because it was so late there. So welcome again. Welcome everybody. Good that you can hear me. If you can't hear me, just leave and come back. And I'd like to know if you have any prior experience with CAEL. So what I'm going to do very quickly is I'm just giving you a quick poll. So hopefully right now you can see some questions. You can see a question. Oh, sorry, there's a technical problem there. So I'm going to try it right again. Okay. All right. So now you can see a question saying, are you trying to decide if the CAEL CE test is for you? So if you're still thinking about CAEL and if you haven't decided yet, please answer yes. And if you're already sure, if you already made your decision, you can answer no. Thank you very much. Just let me know what you think, please. And just to be clear to everybody, if you open the chat box using the orange arrow, you can write a message in the chat box and I can read it. So I'll try to answer as many questions as I can today. And you cannot see other people's responses. So there are other people talking, but unfortunately only I can see them. So that in the chat box you will only see your own answers. Okay, so let's have a look at the results here. People have answered, and people said 60% yes and 40% no. Okay, thank you for letting me know that, guys. I'd like to try one more. Okay, so this question says, have you registered for the CAEL CE test? So have you already signed up for and registered for the CAEL CE test? Don't worry, of course, if you haven't. I'd just like to know, and it's useful for us to know as well. So thank you for voting, guys. It's appreciated. Okay, so let's see what the results are. Okay, so hopefully you can see on your screen now. 15% said yes and 85% said no. So there's a lot of people who are not decided yet perhaps, or are still considering different tests, or just simply looking at the situation. So it's good to know. Oh, and Anna just took a pre-test. Okay, great. Was that a good experience, Anna? All right, so just to let everybody know, this is the second lesson, and there are 4 lessons in total. And each Monday, we're going to do one more of these. So there'll be 2 more Mondays, and then it's done for this course. And just to be clear, this is the CAEL CE online course. So it is about CAEL, not CELPIP. And so CAEL is the academic English test that we do. Okay, great. So somebody is saying, I am Bambi, and I would like to take physical therapy assistant at Norquest College. Yes, so CAEL can help you with those kind of things, applying for higher education. And Anna, I'm glad to hear that your experience was a good one. I hope that works out well for you. And Joe, yes, it's good to sign up for the pre-test, and I'll try to give you all some more information about that at the end with some special offers and special discounts. Just to be clear, in case you didn't see in the chat box, my name is Chris, and please write messages and ask questions in the chat box. Any question that you have is fine. Any comment you want to make is fine. I can see them, and I'll try to read them out loud if we have time. If you don't have time to answer all of them, I'm sorry, but I'll try to do as many as we can. Okay, and one other thing is you might want to have paper and a pencil or something nearby so you can make notes if you want. Okay, it's up to you. So let's get started. This is online course lesson 2, and we're mostly focused on reading today. So this integrates reading and speaking skills together in part 2 of the CAEL CE test. So I have a question about asking the previous session, lesson 1. Just for everybody to know in general, we do have YouTube videos on our CAEL CE YouTube channel, the Paragon YouTube channel. And so you can see videos of older lessons on there actually as well. And I will send out materials from this test in your email. Sorry, in this lesson, I mean, not test. So in this lesson, we will be working on both the reading and speaking skills. And we will start with a quick review of how the CAEL CE test is organized. And then we will have a closer look at what part 2 is all about before we move on to working first on the reading tasks and then on to a speaking task. So at the end, we will look at some speaking skills as well. Now for the reading part, I want to also tell you about the question types, the different types of questions that you see in the test. And I also want to give you some reading strategies to help you plan your answers and think about how to do the test. And the same goes for the speaking, of course, that we can give you some speaking strategies at the end to help you out. And also at the end, we can talk about special offers and discounts that are available for the test and materials. So let's start with a review of a few important general features of the test. So don't worry if you weren't here for lesson 1. I'm just reading a comment there. Okay, so don't worry too much if you weren't here for lesson 1. We covered mostly speaking questions in lesson 1, and this is a quick overview again of what CAEL CE is. CAEL CE is a Canadian test of academic English, and the great thing about it is that the skills are integrated and topic-based, so everything connects together in the test and makes sense. And it provides a realistic assessment of your language use that is used in Canadian universities and colleges at a higher level. So it does give a good idea of how you can work and survive in an academic setting. It's also 100% computer delivered, which means it can be done in one sitting. You don't have to book multiple appointments. You can do the whole thing in one block. Okay, so I'm going to be showing you just a little bit about the test format. This is how the test is broken into 5 parts. Part 1 is for speaking tasks only, while the other 4 parts each integrate 2 or 3 skills. So there is also a different topic in those different parts. So part 1 is just speaking, essentially. And then the other 4 parts of the test have different skills that are included in the passage, and they are covering the same subject. So part 2, for example, the reading passage will be the same information that you have to speak about. Okay, it will be the same subject. The test is broken into 5 parts, but part 1 is for speaking tasks only. And the other 4 parts each integrate 2 or 3 skills. And also there is a different topic for each of those 4 integrated parts. So, for example, that means in part 2, where it says short reading passages, long reading passages, speaking question, those questions are all about the same academic subject. Okay, they'll just be the same information, the same basic background information. So each of the 4 different parts in the last part will have a different subject, but the same subject will be used for those questions. And that's how the test works. And so today we are focused on reading, especially in part 2. Now, here are some of the subjects that you might see in the test. So there are arts and science subjects, and then they're divided into different subjects and categories, such as linguistics, music, political science, business. And then also for sciences, there are things like physics, chemistry, botany, and those are just the sort of subjects you will see for academic English. And this is the CAEL CE band score. So it's very important for you to check if you are doing this for a specific college or institution or university. It's very important to check what band score they need. So some places will require a 70, some might even require a 60, but some actually require an 80, and an 80 can be very difficult to get. So please check with your institution because it can vary. Okay, so these are the things we'll be focusing on today, and we're mostly focusing on reading and part 2. So the thing that we learned today in part 2 can also be applied to the reading tasks that are in part 4 and part 5. And we will return to those parts in lesson 4. So today we're going to look at what's important for you to do well in the integrated speaking questions in part 2 and everything about part 2, basically, the parts that are highlighted in purple and red. Okay. All right, so in this lesson, we will talk more about the reading tasks and how you can deal with them. There is a short reading, long reading, and also the reading skills question types that we see in the test. And there are 6 basic question types that I'll introduce, plus some reading strategies that can help you. So let's look at the 2 main types of reading, the short reading and the long reading. So for the short reading, it is of course a little bit shorter, and it will cover any different aspect of university life. So the subject could be related to the syllabus, instructions, orientation, a library guide, the guidelines of the student council, and those kind of things. It's about 5 minutes and 30 seconds long, and it will ask you about 3 questions, but those can vary. It's not always 3 questions. For the long reading, it will be more academic. So the short reading can be more about general things that happen on a university or college campus, but the long reading is more about things that you will actually study, such as a textbook passage or a journal article, or a university professor's speech or something like that, transcript. These will take about 20 minutes, and they ask about 11 questions. So again, it's not always exactly the same, but it will be about 11 questions. And I'd like to show you how these look on the test screen. And I want to draw your attention to a few important features on the reading screen. The reading passage is always on the left, and so you can see the reading passage there is on the left, and the questions are on the right. There is a scroll bar in the middle, and that is for moving things up and down. You can see there is a red box around the scroll bar. You can use that to move around the page. And also there are question tabs in the corner. Those question boxes let you move between the different questions by clicking on the arrows or the number. And there is also a time remaining countdown in the top corner. If you want, you can click next to move to the next area when you're done. But if you do that, you will not keep that time. So for example, if there was 1 minute left, you don't get 1 extra minute, you just lose that time if you click next. Or you can just wait for the time to run out and then you get moved to the next page automatically. Now the helpful thing is that when you have finished answering questions, the tab turns green. Do you notice that number 1 there is green? That's because questions 1 and 2 have been answered. So if you answer all of the questions on each page, then they all turn green and you know that you have answered everything. So it's safe to click next and move to the next page if you want. Or you could use that time to check the questions again and make sure that you are satisfied and happy with your answers. Okay, so that's what it looks like. And the first reading passage in part 2 will always be a short reading. This is the instructions page for the first reading task. All the instructions pages will all look similar to this. It tells you how many questions there are and how much time you have to answer them. And it will also give you a moment to prepare yourself to keep working. Once you click the next button, you will see the reading and the questions, and then the countdown timer will start right away. So you got to make sure that you're ready. When you click next, the time starts ticking down. So this is, again, the sort of reading passage and how it looks. This one is actually a set of guidelines for writing lab reports. So it looks a little bit different from the other one, which is more a block of writing. This one has more of a list. And if I click to the next part, this long reading is a little bit different, okay? So that was a short reading, and this is a long reading. So you can see that it is a bit more academic in tone, and it's a bit more detailed with the information. The long reading passage is much longer, of course, and there are more questions. So there are about 11 questions across 5 pages, whereas if you look at the short reading, there's only 2 different pages. Okay, you see 1 and 2, and then for the long reading, you can see it goes to 5. This reading is about engineering failures, so it's a bit more academic. Now, I'd like to ask you all a question. So if you're ready, try to answer the question in the chat box, please. There are 3 skills that the reading tests mostly test you on. And I have the skills on the left, general meaning, specific information, inference, and the definitions are out of order on the right. So can you match the number with the letter for the correct definition based on what you know about these words and their meaning? if you know the answer, or if you want to make a guess, please write in the chat box. I can also read it to everybody. So let me know what you guys think. I'll let you read it first. Anna, you said you took the pretest, and is the difficulty the same? The pretest should be an example of the real test using similar questions. So yes, it should be a similar representation of the real test, yes. I just can't say it's exactly the same because it also depends on the questions that you get, and you might feel like, oh, these questions are slightly easier or these are slightly harder, and you know, it's just kind of a personal opinion. But it should be the same basic difficulty, yes. Okay, but yes, so I'm getting some answers coming through, and so some people are guessing, oh, I think everyone's guessing the same actually. Number 1 is C, number 2 is A, number 3 is B. Oh, and Ahmad says number 1 is C. Yes, so I think that's the same. So I can tell you that you are correct, everyone. These are the correct definitions. So thank you all for writing in. The answers that I checked were all correct. General meaning does mean that you are focusing on broad ideas and not a single sentence. So it's like an overview of the meaning. Specific information does mean that you're looking for certain key things, such as the names or opinions or examples of places. And inference means that you don't have the exact same information in the text, so you have to make a logical conclusion based on what logically the answer could be. So it's a little bit difficult sometimes. Now, I'd like to practice some of these types as well to give you an idea of what to expect. So this is the first question from the short reading, and this explains how to do lab reports. So you can imagine that a professor is explaining to the students, and these are the guidelines, the rules for how to do a lab report. And you need to use this reading to choose which of these things is true about writing lab reports for this class. So just, if we're looking at question number 1, what is true of lab reports for this class? Where do you think I should look for the answer? Where would I find the answer in this page? Does anyone have any idea? And also Joe is asking a question, so I'll quickly answer that as well. Joe, do you read the questions first or messages first? That's a good point, Joe. I think in general, when you're using your preparation time in the test, it's best to quickly read through the questions and scan the questions and make sure you understand what is being asked of you first, so that you know what to look for and what to do. Okay, so somebody is saying the first paragraph. We could look for the answer in the first paragraph. And I think that's a good point, but to be more specific, which of those areas do you think the answer would be in exactly? That's good. It's good to look near the beginning, because question number 1 should be somewhere near the beginning. Actually not method. Somebody was guessing method. I don't think it's method. It's in a different place. Good guess though. Okay, so any more guesses, anyone? If you're feeling brave, you can find the keyword lab reports. Yes, you could do that. Okay, so I'm getting a few more answers, and Evelyn has got it right, actually. Evelyn says introduction. So the answer could be found in the introduction, and I'll just show you that with a red box. So you can see here, in the red box, the introduction topic, it says many of the points talk about specific aspects of the lab reports. So it makes sense to look at the introduction paragraph and the first few points, which are more general. So where it also says, provide a brief background on the topic, and he's introducing what the student should do. Now, in that red box, just looking only at the red box, what is the specific phrase that you could use to answer the question? Okay, so what is the specific phrase that would answer this question? It might not be an easy question, but if you look at the answers in number 1 and then look at what it says in the introduction box, What do you think is the specific answer? Okay, so just waiting to see what answers come through. If you're not sure, that's okay. I'll try to explain these a little bit more. Does it mention anything about an open format? Does it mention that they have to physically bring in the papers to the professor? Okay, so Ada is saying about the topic. Yes, and I think Lizeth, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, they require reading. So if you look in the red box, it says do your research. In the red box, it says do your research. So then if you look in the answer key for number 1, it says D, they require reading about the topic. So we can put research and reading together and realize that they are similar words, right? They are kind of related in the sense. So we can guess that the answer is D. And also, I just want to show you how we can eliminate wrong answers, okay? So answer A, they have an open format. We know that's not correct, it's not right, because of the information given in the method point. And the method tells you exactly what to do. So they don't have an open format, okay? They have to follow what it says in the method. For B, should be physically handed in, we know that's not true because the first paragraph says the report should be electronically submitted. So basically it should be emailed or put on the student website or something like that. It's not physical. And we also know that answer C, follow APA citation style, is not correct because a quick scan of this document, if you look at the document in general, it does not mention the word APA. There is no APA. So obviously that can't relate to that in the answer, okay? So if you're not sure about the correct answer, it's also possible to eliminate wrong answers, right? By looking to see if you can find similar things to them in the passage. And if you can't, then probably they're wrong. Okay, so now that we know what the correct answer is, the answer is D, they require reading about the topic. I was wondering if you know what skill did we use to answer that question? Was it general meaning? So general meaning, looking at the general points, specific information, or inference? Okay, which skill did we use to answer that question? Does anyone know? Okay, Ada, thank you. And Evelyn, that's right. So it is specific. And that means, of course, that we were looking for a very specific piece of information. And we know that because the question is asking about a simple fact. It says, what is true about? What is true of lab reports? So that gives us a clue that we need to find a fact. So we're just looking for one specific thing. And if we know that they require reading about the topic is similar to research, do your research, then we know that those 2 points are basically the same thing, okay? So yes, it can be similar words. That's a good point, Anna. And so we're looking for synonyms or similar phrases and things that convey basically the same information, the same meaning. So for questions where you need to find specific information, this is the kind of approach that you could use to answer the question. First, you need to think about what kind of information you need to find. So this is the information that you're trying to locate. Second, you need to find what section of the reading is likely to have that information. So in the example that we just did, we know that we need to look for things like research or if they have to physically give their papers in. And we know that that will be in the beginning of the paper somewhere. So we can look around in the beginning and look for keywords. Third, what kind of information provides the answer? We need to look for a phrase with the specific information that we need. And fourth, we need to find the answer choice that restates this information. So sometimes it's very similar. Sometimes it could be the same word, but sometimes it might be a synonym or a different phrase. So you might need to know, for example, research and doing your reading are very similar things. And then you can find the answer. So it does require to make some synonyms and some connections sometimes. So let's have a look at another question from the long reading. So just as a different example. And we have a longer example here. This is from the long reading. And I'd like to just read you the question. So question number 1, okay, in the red box. Now, of course, also, by the way, the red boxes are not in the real test. This is just to show you for the example. So number 1 says, Professor Henry Petrosky is likely to be teaching which one of the following engineering courses? Integrated engineering, material engineering, engineering ethics, and environmental engineering. There's a lot of words there. So where do you think we should look to find the answer? Where do you think the answer would likely be? Would it be more in the first paragraph or more in the second, do you think? So more in the first or more in the second paragraph? Yeah, so I agree. I'm getting some people saying the first, thank you. And yes, I agree that it would be the first because it is the first question. And for the most part, if you know that the question is a low number, you should look at the introduction and check the introduction first. So paragraph 1 includes Petrosky's name, and this is a good place where we can search for the answer. To find out which of the courses he would probably teach, though, we still need to look at this paragraph more closely. So I found his name. I found his name specifically. And I'm going to look a little bit more closely, and I'm going to look over here where his name was. And these sentences in the box tell me more about Petrosky and his interests, but they don't clearly state which of the 4 courses, which of the 4 answers it could be, because that information is actually not provided anywhere in the reading. And so we need to figure out what we can learn from this and then see if we can apply that information. So if we read these sentences here, they tell us that Petrosky has written a book about engineering mistakes and what we can learn from them, and also about failure analysis and forensic engineers. It says he titled his book, "To Engineer is Human, the Role of Failure in Successful Designs," to highlight the truth that engineering failures happen. Now, using that information, is it now possible for you to guess the answer? Does it help you to figure out what the answer is? And does anybody have any idea what the answer is, please? If you do, just feel free to write it in the box. So Lizeth is saying engineering ethics, engineer is human, okay. Ada is also saying ethics, good. All right, so I would agree with you. The correct answer is engineering ethics, okay. So if you got that, well done. And you can use that information to highlight the correct answer. So this is what it looks like when the answer has been selected. So engineering ethics is the right answer. The second half of the paragraph focuses more on Petrosky and tells us about his book. But none of this information tells us that the choices 1, 2, or 4 could be correct, because it strongly implies that Petrosky is interested in ethics because he studies engineering failures and how we can learn from them. So well done for getting the right answer. I'm glad that worked. And let me just move on to one more point. Can you tell me what reading skill is useful for this question? Okay, so those reading skills were general meaning, specific information, and inference. Which of those 3 skills did we use to answer that question? Thank you, Ada. Yes, so Ada and Lizeth have already got the answer, I think. Inference. This is an inference question. The reason it's an inference question is because it implies that you're not asking about a fact, you're asking about something that could be true. Facts are more definite, right? Facts are facts, so they're not like an opinion or anything like that. And so this is when something is a bit more uncertain and you need to use a logical conclusion. You can't be, strictly speaking, you can't be 100% sure that it's engineering ethics, but there are enough clues and information in the text that it's the only logical answer, right? And so that's how you could easily figure that out, or at least some people were answering the question. And so the answer to the question is also not directly found in the passage, right? You don't know for 100% sure that it's the same information. Okay, so for those inference questions, you do have to make a logical assumption. Okay, so I'd like to give you some strategies for when you need to infer the answer. And you can follow this approach to help you if you're not sure. First, you can see if you can find a clue in the question that helps you know what you need to use, that you need to know. Sorry, I'll have to say that again. First, you can look and find a clue in the question that helps you know that you need to use your inference skills. And so things like that would be words like likely, like is it likely, for example. If the question says likely or probably, then it's going to be an inference question because in the passage it's not 100% certain. And once you know that, you can think about what you have learned through the topic from during the reading, and then think logically to draw a conclusion that will help you to choose the right answer. And then finally, when you're deciding which of the answers is the best, you can also eliminate answers that you know can't be correct. So just like we did before, if you check the information of the other answers and you see that it's not the same, you can eliminate them because they must be a wrong answer. And this will just make it easier for you to choose the right answer since you will have fewer choices left. You can just eliminate those wrong answers. So even if you're not 100% confident about your answer or about English, it is possible to use logic and inferences to kind of cross out the answers which just can't be true. And then it makes your choice a little bit easier. So I'd like to look at another practice question, number 9 in the red box. So this will just give you a clear idea of how the reading questions work. So number 9 is in the red box, and the question says, according to the reading, what was the most important lesson from the Mars Climate Orbiter disaster? And firstly, I'd just like to ask everybody if you can figure out what keywords you could look for in the passage. I don't mean the exact answer, just what keywords, what specific words could you look for to help you find where the answer would be? Is there any idea about that? Okay, so just Evelyn has said, so a lot of people are answering now. That's great. Thank you, everybody. So you could look for the words Mars Climate Orbiter. That's right. And I think a lot of people got that. So if we're looking for those specific words, we can highlight those and then look for where that information is. Does anyone know which paragraph it's in, please? Which of those 3 paragraphs the words Mars Climate Orbiter is? Okay, thank you. Second, that's right. So then we'll look closely at the second one. You can see now the second one is highlighted. And so if we look at the key phrase, the Mars Climate Orbiter, a robotic space probe, blah, 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 what do we need to find out from this information that shows what people learned from this disaster? Can we find this information? Or I guess to be more specific, can we find that information in just one sentence? Is that information right there? Or do we need to read more sentences? Okay, so we're getting some people saying more. We need more information. And Ada is saying the failed translation of imperial units. Oh, so it's Noor, you have to leave to pick up your children? Well, thank you very much for joining us today and have a great day. I appreciate your dropping by. So I hope your children are okay. Take care of that. Have a great day. So Evelyn is saying space. Okay, so there is specific information, right? But can you get it all in the same sentence, or do you have to read more than one sentence? I think some people are saying more. So I just like to say, if you said more, then you are right. Because in this example, we need to read 3 sentences or more to confirm that the paragraph is about the disaster related to the Mars Climate Orbiter. And we also need to find out what people learned from this event. So we can see in the second sentence that the main problem was related to 2 measurement systems, which some people have said there was a complication with the 2 measurement systems. And then we need to read all 3 of those sentences to know that the disaster was related to the Mars Climate Orbiter, and we can choose the best answer. So I'm also getting some people, well, Anna is guessing that the answer is B. Okay, so if you would like, what do you think is the answer? Do you agree with Anna that the answer is the second one, that the answer is B? Or do you think, so some people are saying 3. Okay, Evelyn says B. Okay, so some people are saying consistent measurement units should be maintained, and some people are saying more powerful calculations should be implemented. And I can tell you that the correct answer is B, consistent measurement units should be maintained. So well done to everybody for answering. Yes, so once you've found the chunk of text that you need and isolated and picked out that specific information, you can put the pieces of the information together to find the best answer. And here it's B, it's the second choice. So remember, there were two different measurement systems that caused confusion, and that's why this is the answer, because the measurement units were confusing. They should be maintained in the same way, and then it makes it easier for people. Okay, so thank you so much for answering that, and I hope that made sense. I'd like to ask what skill we use to get the answer. So hopefully you can remember now, because we do say this every time. We had general meaning, specific information, and inference. Which skill did we use there? Was it general meaning, specific information, or inference? So it's kind of interesting, actually. People are saying inference, and some people are, well, Evelyn is saying specific. Some people are saying inference. Okay, yes, and some are saying general meaning. The way that this is classified is a general meaning question, actually. So I'm kind of surprised a little bit that that very few people guessed this one. But at the same time, sometimes the skills can seem very similar. So this is classified as a general meaning question simply because you have to read more than one sentence to understand. And the answer is still within the passage. You don't have to make a logical guess, right? The information is there. Now, we know that it will be either specific information or general meaning because the question says, according to the reading, okay? That's also a useful clue. The question says, according to the reading. Now, it wouldn't say that for an inference question, because with inference questions, it would be more like probably, or likely, or maybe, something like that. It would be less certain. So when we are dealing with an inference question, remember that you can check to see if it says likely, probably, or something like that. With these questions, it's a bit more specific, and we needed information from 3 different sentences to find the correct answer. So this is not a specific information question, okay? Because specific information questions will be one piece of information or one sentence. Okay, so that's the difference. General meaning just means that more sentences were used. So just one more time to quickly recap. General meaning means that more than one question was used. Specific information means that you're looking for keywords and phrases. And inference means that you don't know for 100% certain that something is true, and you have to make a logical jump using the information in the passage. Okay? Hopefully that helps a little bit. For questions where you need to find the general meaning, though, I'd like to suggest these strategies. First, take a look for a keyword or phrase in the question to identify what the topic is. And then next, you can scan the reading to find the related section. And then you can check your answer, the answer choices, I mean, the 4 or more answer questions that you have. You can check those to see what to look for. And then you can scan the passage to look for specific information that helps you to get that answer. So basically, look at the answer choices to find keywords and phrases to look for. And then you can eliminate a few answers that can't be right. So again, if the answer looks like it couldn't be true, you can eliminate that one and then look for the other ones. Okay, so you do have to scan the reading pretty fast to make the most of your time. But the answer will be in more than one sentence. Now, what I'd also like to do, and by the way, everyone, if you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to write in the chat box and let me know. I'll try to answer your questions as we go. So especially if you have any questions about the things we just talked about, like specific inference and general meaning, feel free to let me know and I'll try to answer those. Because we're running a little late today, I'll also try to finish by 3:10, so that way we can maybe get through some of the stuff we didn't have time for. And I hope that's okay for you, but if you need to leave early, I do understand. So we'll try to aim to finish by 3:10 or so. I'd just like to quickly introduce you to the question types that are in the exam. And so the question types are 6 different types of reading questions. And I'm going to review them quickly for you now. So the first one is called multiple choice. Multiple choice is a very common question type. In the CAEL CE test, when you see round bubbles, you can see there's a round circle there. That means that you only need to choose one answer. You only need to choose one correct answer. Oh, Joe, it's no problem. And don't worry, we're not going to finish just yet. We're going to aim to finish a little later. So please don't leave yet if you can. But anyway, Joe, you're welcome. Yeah, so if you see round circles, you know that you only need to choose one correct answer from the options. If you see square circles like this, the square bubbles, you know that the question is going to ask you for more than one correct answer. There are 2 ways you can know that. It will say also in the question, and you will also see square options. So in this question, it says choose 3. So it will tell you the exact number that you need to look for. Fill in the blank is a good one because fill in the blank means that you do need to read the instructions very carefully and then choose the best word or number. Typically, a fill in the blank question will ask you for just a few words or maybe even just one word. And sometimes you need to add a correct name or a place or a number. And so a question I get quite a lot is, if you have a number, for example, 50% or 100%, can I write just the number or do I have to write the word? And basically you can write it however you want as long as it's clear what you're saying. So you can write 80%, for example, as a number, or you could write 80% as a word, and it doesn't matter as long as you're saying the correct answer. Okay, so fill in the blank, and then there is drop down where you just choose the correct answer from a drop down box using the arrow and just click which one you want. And one more thing about those, they will usually appear as a missing word or phrase in the middle of the sentence, not at the very end or the very beginning. Ordering is where you need to read the question carefully to check which order something is going in, and the information could be, for example, from the oldest to the newest. In this situation, the oldest thing should be at the top and the newest thing should be at the bottom. Okay, so you need to read that question carefully and then put the information in that order. For matching, you have a word box and then you just drag and drop the words into different categories. And so for matching questions, once you've pulled them down, it will just look like this. So the correct answer, well, we don't know if they're correct or not, but in this situation, these are the correct examples and they've been put in the boxes already. Okay. Okay, so Ahmad, I'm just going to answer your question quickly. Ahmad is asking, do you offer correcting, speaking, and writing exams to evaluate your level? And we do offer practice materials that I'll give you at the end and which you can also check on our website. But we don't directly tell you what your level could be because we don't know for sure, right? So you can only get your own level from doing the practice, the official test. You can't get it from just a speaking material. But we do offer materials which you can use to practice and which can help you out on the test. And I'll get to those later. So I hope that answers. So let's wrap up the reading section by looking at some recommended strategies. So these are useful in general for any reading that you do. Number 1 is previewing. That means just quickly consider the format, the length, the heading, the time, the number of questions. Try to quickly get all that information as fast as you can. For skimming, this means looking for a general understanding of the topic, the main ideas, and the structure. So kind of looking over a reading passage very quickly. Scanning is when you're looking for relevant, specific details. So for example, for those specific information questions, when you need a name or a place or a number, you're just looking for that word in the passage. Deriving meaning from context, number 4. That means trying to understand new words or phrases from the surrounding words. So basically, even if you read a word that you don't know, or you read a phrase that you don't know, hopefully you can look at the words around it and the situation around it and understand the basic meaning, the general meaning, even if you don't fully understand each of those words. Okay, so that's something that's very important to do, and I'm sure you do it all the time. So hopefully those strategies can help you to think about how to answer the questions. And I just like to practice those with you very quickly before we go, and I'll give you a chance to speak as well in the chat box. So to review everything that we've learned, here is a very short text with a few practice questions for you. And I'm just going to give you a few minutes to complete 2 questions. So let me just show that for you now. This is a reading passage, just an example, not something from the official test, but just something we can do together today. And these are 2 example sentences, 2 example questions. Okay, so what I like to do is I'll just be quiet for a moment and I'll give you a couple of minutes to read this. And then I'd like you to try answering the questions yourself and also think about where you're using a general meaning skill or specific information, or where you're using inference to answer the question. Okay, which of those free skills were you using? So I'll give you just a couple of minutes now, and we'll see how everyone does. And please let me know in the chat box when you think you know the answer. So I'll just be quiet for about a minute, and I'll let you guys think. Bente, thanks for your answer, by the way. Thank you. What do you think about the second one, too? Okay, so a few people are guessing number 1. Feel free to also guess for number 2. I think everybody so far has gotten number 1 correct, which is a great sign. And I'll just say right now that number 1 is by next Friday. By next Friday. Okay, and so guesses for number 2 so far from Ada and Evelyn. And Ahmad and Anna, thank you. So I think everyone is correct, maybe, or certainly most people are correct anyway. Number 2 is A. It is worth a significant amount of their grade. So fantastic. That's great that everyone is getting that, or most people. And what skill did you use as well? Does anyone have any idea about that? Because actually both of these questions did use the same skill. It's kind of a trick question in a way. Both of these are the same skill. Yes, it is specific information, yes. Because of course you were looking for a specific word or phrase, right? And just sort of picking out that specific word from the context. So you can just quickly scan the passage to look for that word. That's right, yeah, thank you, Bente, yeah. You are using your scanning skill. So that's great, awesome. All right, so I'll just move to the next part. Oh, can everyone see this okay? Okay, good. Okay, hopefully everyone can see this okay. My screen went blank for a moment there, so I was kind of worried that it stopped again, but I think we're okay. So if we're looking at number 3 here, basically, what is the answer to this one, do you think? And what skill would you be using? So I'll give you a moment just to look at this quickly and to see what you think. Okay, so some people are answering already, but please take your time and let me know what you think. Okay, so we're getting a few guesses, and people are saying C or A. There are a few C, well, there are a lot of C's and a few A's. And some people are guessing the correct scale as well. Ada says inference, for example, and that is right. This is an inference question. And part of the reason why we can know that is because it just says which of these could be true about the teacher. So it's not 100% sure, okay? So yes, it's an inference question, and I'd like to say that the correct answer is C. The teacher highly values organization. Okay, so, sorry. Okay, so just put that back up there, just to make sure everyone's okay. How did you answer the question? How did you know what the answer was? Does anyone want to say? Like, how did you figure out that the answer was C? Okay, thank you. Yes, make conclusions from details and elimination. Good. And teacher asking how to. Yeah, so I would say as well, just specifically from the text, from the passage, the teacher says a lot of things that shows that they are very highly organized and they really care about organization. The teacher says, I expect you to have chosen a topic by next Friday. So they're giving a specific day, a specific deadline. And then the teacher says this presentation accounts for 25% of your grade, and I advise you to take it seriously. And the presentation must demonstrate not only blah, blah, blah in the final sentence. So the teacher is asking for a lot of specific things, and they sound very organized and very strong. Like they want very specific things. So yes, it's possible to guess from this that the teacher must be organized and must want organization. Okay, so let's move on. And what I'd quickly like to show you is the last part of the part 2, which is the integrated speaking task. And I'll have to show you this quickly because we're running out of time. And again, sorry for the technical problems that we had today. Remember that so far in part 2, you've done at least 2 readings on the same topic. So the short reading and the long reading. And then this speaking task will relate to the same topic. Okay, the topic will be the same. So this task is different from the speaking tasks that are in part 1 because it is integrated. So in part 1, all the speaking parts are not related, but here in part 2, the speaking is related to the reading questions, and it's the same subject. Okay, so I'd just like to show you this checklist as well. You do have a copy of the checklist. You can download it, or it will be in your emails anyway when we send an email to you later. So please check your emails as well later today. So your email should include this checklist as well. And this is an example of what the CAEL CE raters look for. And this checklist helps you to understand how the scoring is done. So let's start by looking at the speaking checklist. I've also put a sample task at the bottom left for you. It says, why do engineering disasters happen? What are the causes of errors? And if you took lesson 1, you might notice that the top part is identical, and the last 3 points are specific to the part in part 2 because it'll be talking about what you just read. Now, I'd like to stress something very important. When you are talking about the reading passage, if you're talking about the reading information, it's very important not to copy the information directly and just start reading what's in the passage out loud. It's important to change the key information into your own words, to paraphrase. So paraphrasing is a very important skill for the CAEL CE test in general, not just for reading, but also for writing. You should not copy the other information directly. Juan is asking, how can I download the checklist? Juan, it should be sent to you in an email later today, not right now, unfortunately. Okay, so please check your email later today. Thank you. Okay, so here is the instructions, here is the instructions page for the speaking task in part 2. The question is going to relate to the long passage we already worked on. And I'd just like to quickly ask you, what important things do you see on this screen? So somebody is also asking me, in CAEL CE, do we have separate speaking test at the end of the test? And the answer to that is no. These speaking parts are in the test itself. They are all interconnected. They are connected. So you do speaking in part 1, and then you do some reading in part 2, and then you do some speaking in part 2. So it's not just one skill, and it's not separated that much. So I hope that answers your question, Ahmad. Or was that, well, sorry. Anyway, whoever asked that question, I hope that helps. And what important things do you see on this screen, please? Yes, Ahmad, CAEL is fully computerized, and you get your results emailed to you. It's all computerized. And yes, thank you. Yes, it's important to note the preparation time and the speaking time. There is 60 seconds preparation time and 120 seconds speaking time. And I'm just going to highlight the important points here as well. And somebody is saying topic, which is important too. Thank you. So these are the things I'd like to draw your attention to. Firstly, we already talked about the speaking time. So we did that in the top corner. And we also have the tabs. So there are 2 tabs, and they say instructions and reading passage. If you click on those, you can switch between them and look at them. It also says use the source information, but do not copy directly, which is what I warned you about earlier. It's very important to refer to the reading passage, but don't copy all the words directly. You can change them into your own words. And you will be evaluated on the content of your response, the accuracy of your language, and your use of the source material. So those specific instructions tell you exactly what the rater is looking for and how the rater will give those points. And also, the other important thing is that the question is basically 2 parts. Part 1 says, why do engineering disasters happen? Number 2 says, what are the causes of errors? So you do need to answer 2 different things. It's, there's more than one point of information. So that's something you got to be careful of, because if you only answer the first part of the question and you don't really talk about the mistakes so much and why, that would be a way to slightly lose some points. So in this screenshot, the test taker has clicked on the reading passage. So we had instructions and we had reading passage. If you click on the reading passage, you can see the reading like this on the left. Okay, so that's how it will look. And then you can use your paper and your pen to make some notes if you want, to make some brainstorming or make a quick list of keywords. It's up to you. Another thing is, if we return to the instructions page and look at the instructions tab again, we can consider that we have 60 seconds to get ready. And we know that the response is going to be scored on the content, accuracy of language, and also how people use the source material. So what could you do with your preparation time to help you get a good score? Well, I think to save time, I'll just tell you some of the ideas that we had, because we do need to move a bit fast. I think it's important to read the instructions and also to read the questions again carefully and make sure that you understand the questions, and also to make some notes if you have time. Some people don't like to make notes, so it's not the same for everybody. But if you have time, it's good to brainstorm a few words or a few lists just to kind of help you organize your information. So I'm just going to summarize that for you here. Sorry, one second. Okay, there we go. So here is a summary of how you can use your prep time effectively. It's important, like I said, to quickly determine what you want to talk about, because you don't have much time, and it's good to just quickly choose a subject, and then you can think of ideas for that subject. So don't worry if you're not fully happy with the subject. It's just important to be able to speak and to say something. Write down anything that you remember from the reading that relates to this question. So write down any of the key information or key phrases that you remember. Then quickly skim the reading to find more information that's related to those key words. And if you can also organize your notes into a list or use WH questions, like, for example, who is it talking about? What is it talking about? Where? So you can use those kind of questions to kind of organize your notes if you have time. And make sure, again, just to make sure you rephrase the key information. So this is just so important. don't copy the information directly. Try to change it into your own words. Just to be clear about that, it is okay to say key nouns. Like, for example, if we're talking about a person, and if you say his name or her name, that's okay. But you shouldn't be saying and reading the exact same information that's in the passage. The information should be your own words. If you can, it's also really good to think of an opening statement, because if you have an introduction, then you can just start speaking, and it's much easier. If I were you, I would spend more time thinking about the introduction than the conclusion, because the ending could change, when you're speaking. But if you have an introduction, then it's possible to get started, and you'll feel more confident. Ahmad, you're asking about the computerized part of speaking for CAEL, and would that be useful for CELPIP? If I understand your question correctly, I think what you're asking is the answer is no, because CAEL and CELPIP are different tests, like completely different. So if you take one of those, you can't use your score in the other one, if that's what you mean. But they're very similar in terms of speaking into a microphone, if that's what you mean. They're both done on the computer. So yeah, they're not the same though. They're different tests. Okay, so thank you for your question though, Ahmad. And yeah, so very quickly then, I'd just like to review the questions here. We have 2 questions. What do you need to talk about, and how will you organize your notes? So just imagine you have this question in the test. You have, why do engineering disasters happen, and what are the causes of errors? How would you quickly answer these 2 questions here? What do you guys think? Please let me know. This is the last time I'll ask you, because we're running short on time, and I'll try to summarize this lesson soon. But do you have any ideas of how we can answer those 2 key questions? So for question number 1, what do you need to talk about? Does anyone know? Okay, so Anna is saying reasons, and Jamel is saying the causes, and state the reasons. Thank you, Evelyn, as well. Yes, so you do need to talk about 2 things for part 1. You need to talk about why these disasters happen, and also what causes them. So yes, that's a good point. And for question number 2, what else is important about organizing your notes? Okay, thank you, Joe. Yeah, that's a good point. What is the reason for the engineering disaster? But how would you organize your notes for number 2? If you are making notes, of course. Not everybody does notes. But if you are making them, what would you do? A tree diagram, that's interesting. So like a brainstorm, right? Like a map. State the disaster and its cause. First, second, finally, use transition words. I'm not sure if you need to make those words in your notes though, Anna, because surely you can remember those words anyway, right? You don't need to write them down. Or do you mean just to use them as like a 1, 2, 3, kind of an order? Because the style that we were thinking was something like this. You could organize the 2 things into 2 different categories. So we have 2 different things. Why disasters happen and causes. So those 2 are like a list. Yeah, so thank you, Joe. Yeah, make a list. So this is just an example. You don't have to do it this way, but this is a useful way to put the 2 things into 2 different categories. And then you can look for the answers in the box. I'll just go through this quickly for a couple of examples first. So looking through the box, I looked for some keywords that are related to the idea why disasters happen. Okay, so I have 2 things, why disasters happen and causes. And first I'm looking at why disasters happen. So looking through the list, I found these keywords in yellow. You can see those highlighted in yellow. Violation of codes of practice. And from that, I know that they are not following the rules. They're not following the rules properly. Then if I keep reading, I get miscommunication. And that means that, the communication between people is very poor, and they're making mistakes because of the lack of communication. So if we keep going, then we get extreme weather conditions. So the bad weather is making the building much worse, much more difficult. So perhaps you guys can guess what the next one is. What do you think? So yes, Joe, as well, of course, we're making a list here. Okay, so poor ethics, exactly. Thank you, Evelyn. So the next one is questionable ethics. And so the poor ethics is a problem because they are not following the rules and they're not taking each other seriously. They're not taking the safety seriously. And then, oops, that's a little too soon. I'm going to move on to causes now. So these are the causes section. So the first one in causes is the second part of the paragraph. We can see that it says human factors. And so primarily the problem is people. People are not doing their job correctly. And then we see carelessness. So that means their work is sloppy or dangerous. And negligence, there is a lack of attention to detail. Or unpreparedness, they are not being prepared. So this is why there are a lot more mistakes and a lot more problems caused in the workplace. And so if you don't know what these words mean, you're not 100% sure about what these words mean, you can look at the surrounding paragraph and try to find some context to explain those words. And if you don't know one specific word, you can skip that word and worry more about the rest of the passage, because it's okay not to know everything, right? There might be words that you don't know. So don't worry if you don't know all the words. Now, using your prep time, you could make an introduction statement and a closing statement. So Anna, that's a good question. Anna is just asking, if I don't know negligence, can I repeat it? But remember, Anna, you don't want to repeat too much from the paragraph directly anyway. It's best to say things in your own words rather than copying them from the text. So I don't recommend using the same words all the time anyway. Okay, but yes, definitely, especially if you don't know a word, you don't need to say it. You can use your own words. You don't need to say the same words, okay? So don't worry about that. It's possible to define things in different ways and explain things in different ways. However, it is good to use specific words as much as you can and try to use precise academic words as much as you can, because this is still an academic test. So it's good to display your knowledge as much as you can. Just don't worry if you don't know all of the different words. Now, just as an example, everyone, I just want to ask you if you could think of a good way to introduce your answer to this question. If you had this reading passage and you were thinking of some notes, what would be a good opening statement that you could make to start speaking with when you start speaking? Does anyone have any idea? Okay, and just while you're thinking, please write something in the chat box if you have an idea. I'm going to say that we'll finish this lesson in about 4 minutes now because of the time delay that we had. So I'm going to quickly go through the rest of the information and we'll finish in about 4 minutes. So I know people might be busy. Okay, so any ideas for that? Well, if you're not sure, I can give you an example. So I'm not seeing too many ideas right now. Okay, Evelyn's saying discipline is very important in all aspects. Okay, thank you. That's a good way to start. This is the example that we had. I'll just show you. This is just an example, of course. You don't have to follow like this, and this is not a real test question. It's just an example. And for this statement, we said, like everyone else, engineers aren't perfect, but their mistakes tend to be highly visible and attract lots of attention. So basically, engineers do some good things, right? They create wonderful bridges and buildings and technology, but their mistakes are very serious because people can lose their lives and people can have serious accidents. So their mistakes are highly visible and get reported on in the news. Okay, so that's one way you could introduce this subject if you were going to answer. And just an example closing statement to finish everything off, you could say the engineering profession needs to examine these errors, these catastrophic errors, and learn from them. Now, catastrophic, just in case you don't know, means like really, really serious, like very dangerous, incredibly bad. So basically, you need to learn from those mistakes and not repeat them in the future. So that's just a way you could finish your speech when you're answering the question. Okay, so I just quickly review these skills. It's important to use the information from the long reading when you are answering the question. You should refer to the reading, but it's important also that you change the words and explain them in your own words and don't copy the passage directly. Try to use vocabulary specific to the topic and also include enough ideas that you can develop your topic with some more information. So try to give your own reasons why and your own examples why you think so using the reading passage. And remember, you do have to speak for 2 minutes for that part. And so some general reading strategies that you can use. Use your prep time to review the question and clarify what you need to talk about. So just in the beginning, it's important to read the questions that you have and also the passage and just quickly get an idea of that information. Focus on what you remember from the reading that relates to this question, and then skim the reading to find additional information. You can make some quick notes to help you as well, but you don't have to. It's just an option to organize your ideas. It's more important, if you're going to write a sentence, it's good to have a good introduction sentence. It's more important to focus on the introduction than the middle or the end. That way you can just start talking when your time is up. If you have time, try to come up with a good closing sentence as well, but like I said, that's less important. If necessary, refer to the reading while you're speaking to get more ideas. So some people are saying they purchased some books, so that's great. I really hope that they help you. I'm going to give you some more information about that in a moment. And when will the recording of this lecture be available on the CAEL website? Just in general, guys, for videos and that kind of thing, you can find those on our YouTube channel. So please go to the YouTube channel for CAEL CE and Paragon testing, and also CELPIP if you're interested in CELPIP. But for CAEL CE, you can search that in YouTube, and you can see the videos on YouTube when they appear. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure when this video would go out, this specific one. It might take a week or so. Now, I just want to tell you what test practice we have available right now. So there's a lot of new things, a lot of free things you can get right now. You don't have to pay anything for these things. So you can try the sample test for free by just going to the website, and I really recommend that because it just means you're using the test. You can see what the test is like, and that's completely free. And you can also try a practice test 1 and 2 for free, and there is also a new practice test free. And so these are just different practice tests that you can try to get a feel for different questions and see what the test is like. There's also a kind of ebook and also a real book that you can buy, so a physical book as well. But it can be an ebook. You can download it, and it's CAEL CE an Overview. Right now, that's free. That's for a limited time. So you can get that for free. And you can also get our academic vocabulary builder, which you do pay for. Now, I'd also like to let you know about some special offers that we have right now. The first one is exclusively for people who attend this course. And basically, you can get practice tests 1 and 2 for free. And you can just do that by going to the website. That's free until March 31st. And you can also download the free ebook, CAEL CE an Overview ebook. That's free to download from the CAEL bookstore. Another good deal is that the test itself is now $225, and you can get another $20 off if you do the survey that I'm going to send you today. So later today, you will get an email that has a survey in it. If you just complete the survey, you can get $20 off the CAEL CE test. So it's a really good deal if you're interested in the test. And also, you can get 50% off the test if you're legible and in the area for a CAEL CE pre-test. So those pre-tests are ones where you can practice in real life and get a feeling for what it's like. So please check the website if you're interested and if you are in the area where you can do that. Ahmad is asking the difference between the sample and the practice. That's a good question. The sample test is free on the website, usually for everybody to use. It's just the example one that's there for everybody. The practice ones are usually the ones you have to sign up for, and they give you a more realistic example of the real test. Because in the sample one, you can freely move around and look at the answer key. Okay, this one doesn't give you the answer key right away. Oh, Anna, that's a good question. To be honest, Anna, I'm not sure about that specific question because I haven't heard anyone ask that before. I would say I would ask customer service about that question, Anna. So yeah, just contact our customer service for the website, and I'll just show everyone that as well. The website page. Okay, so Anna, I recommend checking the customer service just to ask that question because it's a very specific question. I'm not 100% sure. Also for Jamel as well, you're asking if you can already get more money back. I'm not 100% sure, Jamel, because I'm not on the customer service side. So I recommend just contacting the website or calling us using the number on the website, and they can tell you yes or no, because I'm not 100% sure about that situation. Yes, there is an expiry date for the practice, Ahmad. The expiry date is March 31st. Okay, you can see at the top. Practice test 1 and 2 are free until March 31st. Okay, but the free sample test is free for forever, basically. It's free right now. Okay, so I'm just going to ask if anybody has any more questions that I can quickly answer. And this is the information on the screen for customer service and our website. If you have time, I recommend checking the bookstore because you can download more information there. And today, again, we will send you an email and you can do a survey in the email. And if you do the survey, you can get more money off the test. So $20 off. Thank you very much. And like I said, please check your emails later today and have a great day. And I really wish everybody the best of luck on the test. So if you're taking the test or interested in the test, please, all the best. I really hope it goes well. Okay, thank you, everybody. I better say goodbye and have a great day. And thank you, everyone, for your comments.